It's the 14th of July.
It sure is.
I have no idea what day it is. It could be
Okay, that's
Monday. It
fair.
could be Friday.
Was it around this day, roughly, 2 years ago,
Hmm.
that something happened?
And if you're watching at home, it might be the exact day.
It might.
That's entirely possible. So we've got Tom, we've got David, and me, Ben. The three of us wrote some Pip Decks for Pip Decks. Tom, what was yours called?
Mine was called Innovation Tactics. After a bit of going around the houses and renaming it a few times.
We did the same thing. So David
Yeah.
and I wrote one too. David, what did we write?
It's called Strategy Tactics.
Excellent, nice. I love the camera. Yes. Oh wait, Tom's repping our
Oh,
deck too. How
Tom,
kind of
Tom
you, sir.
also wrote
Okay.
Strategy Tactics.
But I kind of wish that he did. That would be great. The three of us are getting together because we're excited about this milestone. 2 years since the release of these Pip decks. I'm just jazzed. These things are out in the world. People are using them. They're coming back to us and telling us how they're getting value from these decks. I guess for the uninitiated, what is a Pip deck? I've heard terms like business recipe cards.
I always say it's a book in the form of a card deck.
It's almost like about 50 books compressed into a card.
Hmm.
Yes, yes.
Exactly.
We are very proud of these decks, strategy tactics for David and myself, and innovation tactics for Tom. So we got together because we think we would like to do a bit of a tour, a little bit of a let's go around and tell the world about how cool these decks are and how helpful they are to the folks that are using them in the work that is necessary for innovation and strategy and all of the above. And to do that, we thought we'd each bring some of the cards that we find ourselves going back to time and time again. And maybe let's start there. Who wants to go first?
David.
David, put you on the
Like,
spot.
Tom, you're like me. Just kidding. Okay. So I had a hard time coming up with like the card, and that was kind of surprising to me because it's been 2 years, and in a way, I'm kind of like, oh, those things. Yeah, haven't I moved on? But surprisingly, no. And the card changes frequently. That's why I kind of had a hard time picking. But I ended up going with building blocks for today. So building blocks has been really important. And it's kind of deceptively simple because it's just looking at what are the most important parts of your business that you rely on to get things done, and how does that interact with everything else you're doing. And if those things aren't solid and you don't know what's going on there, it puts you in a lot of danger. And I think one of the reasons that that comes up now is we're seeing a lot of companies trying to make a shift, and you're not going to be surprised by what I say, to AI. And so it's kind of, like in all of our careers in the industries we're in, like we've seen these kind of things come up, and parts of the new fad get adopted and some fall away and some just completely get forgotten. And I'm not trying to make any predictions about AI itself, but the thing that I'm seeing is a lot of people are saying, how can we use this new thing? That's a great question. But when we're thinking about strategic decisions, replacing all of that really important fundamental stuff that you're doing with something that's brand new and not quite proven yet is really dangerous. It doesn't mean it's wrong, but it means you should really be aware of what's going on and exactly what you're replacing and why. And I don't see that happen to the degree that I would like, I guess is what I'm saying. So yeah, so that's why that card still is really sticking with me.
Love it.
Thoughts,
Thank you,
prayers,
Yeah. Well,
wishes.
on your building block card, it makes it
Yeah.
clear, doesn't it? You break it apart and then you see, hey, look, this stuff is really stable and we rely on this.
Mhm.
And then you're going to go, well, look, this AI thing, that's novel. Why don't we replace all of our stable foundational infrastructure with something entirely novel? What could go wrong?
And you could plan for it.
Yeah.
It would still, I would say, just like my opinion is, yeah, that's a risky move, but you could still do it. But my preference would be to say, hey, like, where's the risk, so you know before things break.
Love it.
I'm glad you brought up
Yeah,
building blocks. That's a good one. Tom,
thank you.
I'm gonna pass it to you next. What about
Oh,
you? What you've got two cards, right? To balance
I
this out?
cheated. I cheated. Well, there's two of you, so you got to pick one card each.
Fair
But
enough.
I'll start with one, and one that I keep coming back to a lot is Anatomy of an Insight, which I
Yes.
also talk about as signal stories options, and it's just these three different
Ooh.
color of post-it notes. But I find myself using that all the time and encouraging people to use it all the time. There was one client, I had a coaching client who said, "Thank you. Now we don't debate anymore and get stuck in these loggerheads about who's right about what's happening and who's wrong about what's happening and which of the two should we do this idea or that idea. Instead, we just capture all of the stories about what might be going on, come up with some others as well, and then it generates more options and we get to somewhere that we wouldn't have otherwise got to. It just saves a lot of time and creates a lot more possibilities.
That's huge.
It's huge. Yeah, yeah.
Well, the conflict thing is it's just in some organizations they folks can just go round and round and round and round on the same thing. I think what's excellent about Anatomy of Insight in particular is just like it's a simple structure. And yes, there's procedures, right? But like just on its own, just what sticky notes get written down guides a conversation, keeps everyone focused, and compared to the round and round and round, even just having something like as basic as that, like even if they miss 80% of what the card's supposed to be, if they just get the sticky notes, if they just use the categories of signals, stories, and options, like they're just going to get so much out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the biggest, I think that big shift is going from like just making those assumptions about what's happening. You see something happening in the world and you know the story of why that's happening. Oh, they didn't call me back. That's because they hate me. Is that no? So you say, well, okay, that might be it. What else might it be? Well, they might be busy. Oh yeah, etc. etc. You can come up with more
Wow.
stories about what any signal means, and yeah, just separating those two out is a sort of freedom.
I was just thinking, giving some boundary to the way people discuss things is really helpful, because often when we're in those moments of trying to unpack a really confusing situation, there's just too much. There's too much to think about, too much to process. And, when you're like, well, it could be one of 100 different things, and which one do I go with? And how do I feel this idea that I'm trying to share in this like 30-minute time slot? Having those boundaries of like how to explore together is really important.
Incredibly important, isn't it? Because yeah, and it's something I talk about quite often. I sort of joke about how about 10 years ago, I got all into the idea of let's avoid the narrative fallacy. And I tried to train my team to not tell stories about why things were happening and went quite hard on it for a bit until I realized that, well, of course, they were all still telling stories. They just weren't telling me what the stories were. And I was still telling stories as well because I couldn't stop my brain doing it. And I realized, okay, you can't actually stop your brain telling the stories. So instead, you free yourself from being trapped in a simple story by telling more stories. Then you get to the other problem, which is then I do this in the training sessions that I do. You start writing down just some stories. Well, what might be going on at this moment? And we do it with just ordering in a coffee shop. So you see the menu, but you don't order. The customer doesn't order. Well, why not? What might be going on? And people come up with, I've seen like 15 different stories about why that might be happening, which then create 20, 30 options for what we might do. And people are starting to think, oh my God, this is overwhelming. And I point out, we're not inventing these. This is a fraction of what reality has available to you. You're just starting to see some of it now. Isn't that better?
Yeah, pretending that those options aren't or that those realities aren't there doesn't make them go away,
Yeah.
surprisingly. No, I love this card, Tom. Thanks for sharing it. And we're going to come back to you again for a second card in a moment. I'll share my favorite card, which is the back brief card from Strategy Tactics. The reason that I picked this one is because it's pretty simple. It's about asking people what they intend to do and why they intend to do that, and then what support they need. And the reason that I really care about this one is because it does two things. First of all, it helps a team hear each other and become predictable to each other. Like, I understand what you intend to do, even if I might disagree with it, but at least I'm not going to be surprised that you're doing it, right? And that creates, like, you don't need trust, you just need predictability, which I think is really interesting, especially for teams that are struggling with issues like trust. The other thing that it does is it creates a moment for coaching, which is if a leader comes into the room and asks some of the folks in their care, hey, what do you intend to do and why? Well, if they hear answers that they're not expecting, I mean, it's not a moment to like come cracking down and say, you got it wrong. In fact, it's a moment for the leader to do some reflection, go, oh, is that what they think they need to be doing as a result of what I've been saying or as a result of the signals they're getting in the workplace? And they can pause, they can step back, and they go, okay, I need to be saying something different. Here's the message I'm going to try next. And they repeat the process. Okay, what do you intend to do now that I've said these new things? It's a little different. Still not quite what I was hoping for, but I can now reflect and run the process again. So it's not about like enabling micromanagement. It's actually quite the opposite. It's about getting to a moment where you offer an intent and they interpret it how they'll interpret it. But then, even if it's not the way that you would do it, it still achieves the objective. So back brief is like the key that just points at all the other problems that you might need to solve in order to create an organization that is very deliberate with its intent. So that's why I like to talk about it, because it's all about alignment.
It is this alignment, but without the sort of whip cracking sense of alignment, isn't it?
Yeah, I think this is a great way to let people have some agency in what they do and make decisions. And I mean, oftentimes when we're talking about employees that report to you, we're trying to figure out like, are they doing the right thing? Am I communicating the right way? And letting people who you hired to do a specific job use their expertise to tell you what they think should be done is kind of novel in the current landscape, but it works. It's really effective. And what I love about how this card works is that it creates a place that's more or less safe to explore those options where you can say, yes, what do you want to do? Tell me about it in a way that I'm not going to get surprises, which are usually a bad thing. And I can tell you, like, does that match my expectations? Are there others in the group around us that this is going to affect? It even gives you a chance kind of to hear back from peers. Hey, your plan actually really clashes with my plan, and gives them a chance to figure things out. So predictability is very important.
I'm going to add another thing to this because I've used Backbrief when last time I was like installed, fully employed before I became unemployable. I was leading a large team, and the classic stuff was happening. Everybody wondering, what is everyone else doing? We need to know what the other teams are doing. But then when those teams or people were sharing what they were doing, it was just a laundry list of technical jargon and nobody could understand it. So we installed a little bit of back briefing a couple of times a week, brought the different teams together and did a very quick back briefing sort of thing. And I realized the way I put this is I don't need to know what you're doing. I don't need to dig through your task manager, Jira, whatever, and read all of the detail and try and figure it out. I just need to know that you know what you're doing. And I found that when I was sitting there, I could immediately smell, hang on a minute, you actually don't know what you're doing. You don't know what the strategy is. And where you're going to go now is going to cause us problems. Quietly reach out, let's go and sort that out and fill you in or help you get set up. And the other thing that was even better is other people from other teams started going, no, I understand what you're trying to do. Hey, I've got this thing that might help you. Poof, and they could actually start collaborating.
It's all about that higher intent that we all share. So, with that in mind, I figured we should come back around to Tom again. You have another one. Is it multiverse
I'm
mapping?
excited for this one.
Yeah, which is, it goes really nicely with Anatomy of an Insight. Anatomy of an Insight, you're sort of thinking about the multiverse of possible stories that might be going on, which you layer on top of a multiverse map now. That's how I tend to teach it. What a multiverse map does it's sort of simple at the high level. You're just telling a story of one person in the real world who is going to find your thing, choose your thing, use your thing, and get the value. And you break it down to a level of granularity. So you just describe what one person sees and then does, and then sees and then does. So that's your very happy universe. Then the fun starts, because now you add on the unhappy multiverse, all of the different ways it can go wrong, where they don't see the thing, they don't do the thing, they don't see the next thing, they don't do the next thing. And at each of those steps, you start to become aware as a team of like, oh, this happy path isn't a given, it turns out. There are many ways this could go wrong. And you find the ones that you are most uncertain about, the ones that feel the scariest, and you add on your signal stories options, your anatomy of an insight, and you've got a mini pre-mortem right there.
Oh, I didn't realize you could use it as a pre-mortem. That's so cool.
It's a pre-mortem, but without telling people they're doing a pre-mortem. And it's a pre-mortem that gives you options to what to do about it.
Every time there's something that happens before an event unfolds, before the consequences start rolling in, I know we're very much on team action, do a thing rather than sit there and plan forever. But for stuff like this, you're going to surface possibilities, issues, concerns that you're otherwise going to miss. So I'm just really excited by this, because the best and the worst reveals a lot.
It does. You've got similar cards as well, haven't you? Like, let's look at, there's your cards where you flip things, close up shop. What if we just shut everything down? It plays with the same thing. We're going to take this thing that we can't openly consider, and we can't raise our hand and say, I think this is effed. And it makes it safe by turning it into a game where the failure is a foregone conclusion.
I think that's why talking in extremes works so well. It just gets you into that headspace.
Yeah, and any time we can reduce those unpleasant surprises is a good opportunity.
Yeah. Well, chaps, this has been excellent. And there's a reason that we've been talking about these cards, isn't there? And it's because if you're listening to this and you have a podcast, or you know someone who has a podcast, and you would like to talk to the three of us together, we would love to join you for that. And yes, we're inviting ourselves on your podcast. That's right.
Just like people do. This is how the world works.
Apparently, it does. It sure does. So if you would like to learn more about us or find a way to get in touch with us, you can visit strategywith.com. That's a domain that we're keeping up and running for the three of us as we work together. So just to round us out here, Tom has a question, and I think it's going to be great.
What is the thing that's most surprised you about having written a Pip Deck?
Oh, okay. So I'll say two things are the most surprising about having written a Pip Deck. One is that I wrote a book at all, which is something I've always wanted to do, but never really thought like, oh, like what am I going to sit down and do? So it like really forced me into doing that, and collaborating on doing that with Ben really made it happen and possible and just lovely. And we got a little bit of collaboration with you, Tom. I know, like when you were starting yours,
We had some
so
fun.
that was also fun. But I think one of the most surprising things is how often it comes up unintentionally that people have it and use it, which shouldn't be surprising, because like we wrote it for people to use these things and whatever. But like, I think we were watching, Ben sent me a webinar the other day, and I was watching a replay of the webinar, and somebody in the webinar had both of our card decks in the background in the video.
Really?
And I was like, I think I got like 30 minutes into the webinar, and then I was like, hold on, what's that? And it's just weird, like the places that it pops up. So I think that's been kind of cool.
Very cool. I would totally
what
agree
about
with that.
for you?
Oh, that.
Yeah.
I mean, totally that. I want to shout out while we're here to my partner in business and life, Carissa Nunn, who sort of was my collaborator a lot on innovation tactics, and helped make it so that when it went to the team at Pip Decks for editing, the editor there was like, "Oh, I'll find some words to cut," and came back said, "I couldn't find anything to cut." So yeah, Carissa's amazing.
That's impressive.
Yeah, she is amazing. But it's the same thing. Yeah, I had someone that I know just sent me a link and said, "Hey, look, I did this talk," and it was a talk of her presenting. It was like 8 different innovation tactics cards in 6 minutes to a whole tech conference type thing.
Wow.
And I was like, "Whoa, that's amazing!"
That's great.
It was really cool. So yeah,
I love
shout
it.
out to Georgia.
Excellent.
What about
And
you, Ben? What's been your biggest
Yeah.
surprise?
well, I mean, the same exact thing. It happened recently, yesterday. No, this morning. It happened this morning when I talked to an architect, and they were like, "Your voice sounds familiar. Wait a minute. Are you with Pip Decks?" Because apparently he had watched some of the videos in the vault, and I was just like, "Yeah,
Whoa.
that's us." So that's very cool. I am surprised that it's like out there in the world and being used. But I mean, that was the whole point of these decks, is that each of the tactics is supposed to be timeless. It's supposed to be something that people will actually use. So I'm really excited that they actually use it.
Yeah, I mean that's not to be sniffed at because many people have written books and made products and they never get used. So yeah,
Excellent. Well, for those of you watching, if you'd like to hear more of us bantering about alignment or innovation or how to sort through ideas when everyone's at loggerheads, there is so much in both strategy tactics and innovation tactics and all the other pip decks too. But if you'd like to talk to us more about that on your podcast, or you know a podcast where we belong, by all means, forward us on strategywith.com, or use that website to reach out to us as well. So, Tom, David, it's been a pleasure. And I'm so glad to have you both in my life. And it's an honor to be a fellow Pip Deck author with you.
you
Same.
put it better than I could.